کاوش مدیا.
We can understand what the Iranian regime is attempting to do, mainly by way of proxies, right? So Iran, by its geographical location, already is able to threaten the Strait of Hormuz that leads from the Persian Gulf out into the Arabian Sea. But on the other side of the Arabian Peninsula, we have equally critical waterways. And here I'm talking about the passage between the Arabian Peninsula and Africa, the Horn of Africa. And the narrowest place there is the Bab el-Mandeb, a strait, one of the 8 most critical straits in the entire world, the Bab el-Mandeb that lies between roughly Yemen and Djibouti, and controls the passageway up into the Red Sea and eventually the Suez Canal. And we can see strategically what Iran, the Iranian regime, has been trying to do in terms of at least being able to pose a threat, whether by proxy or directly. And in addition to trying to surround Israel, both land and sea, which we can see from the map, of course, Hamas and PIJ to the south in Gaza, Hezbollah in the north, coming out of Lebanon. And by the way, I don't know how they did it, but deterring Hezbollah from entering the fray in the most recent conflict, I think was critically important, but they're still facing those 150,000 rockets or more, with upgrade kits for precision guidance. But so that is surrounding Israel. Peace treaties have helped with Egypt, with Jordan, okay? But the other thing that Iran's regime is trying to do is to surround its number one regional enemy, aside from Israel, the Saudis on the Arabian Peninsula. So you look around that peninsula and you see that, the Strait of Hormuz on the one side of it, around and down, and what is the Iranian regime doing but backing, arming, supplying the Houthi rebels in their fight in Yemen. And of course, out of Yemen have been fired any number of rockets and missiles by the Houthis, an Iranian proxy, Shiite proxy militia, fired at Saudi Arabia, at oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. So it's not just the waterways, but it is the waterways. If they get control of Yemen, let's say, the Iranians through their Houthi proxies, they would be in a position to threaten the Bab el-Mandeb. By the way, across that strait in the Horn of Africa, in Djibouti, is the United States' one and only military base in Africa. If we think about it, AFRICOM does not even have a base and a headquarters in Africa. But there is that base in Djibouti. That is not AFRICOM, but it is our base in Djibouti. Well, right next door, what's just been built? The Chinese have just built a military base next door to ours in Djibouti. So it is not just the Iranian regime, but it is those that are allying with it, as we see now the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, Beijing, as well, threatening these very key waterways.
So we're going to leave, and in essence, we're going to acknowledge that we didn't have an objective that we could reach. And there never was one, and there never will be one, and we're going to come home. And that's not nice. That's not happy. It reminds me of, the end of the Vietnam War, where you had to say to yourself, why were we there, and why are we leaving, and now what? And by the way, I would just say of the whole thing, Claire answered the question about waterways, but to go back to the Middle East part, there is a land bridge that needs to concern us, and that is Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, out to the Mediterranean. So as Claire goes underneath and looks at water, you also have to go overland and look at the northern countries. And those also are sitting right on top of Saudi Arabia, Iran's nemesis. So it is under the Saudis, over the Saudis, under Israel, over Israel. There is a lot out there to parse.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند.